Hello everyone, we are going to evaluate an essay together and we will learn from this essay some terminologies and ways of organizing thoughts. The topic is newspaper will remain the main source of news in the future and internet will not have any effect. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own experience. Now, the first step is to understand the question. So, the question is actually talking about newspapers and the impact of internet on consuming paper news. So, if we read this question again, the first line is basically the background information. Newspaper will remain the main source of news in the future. So, even with the advent of internet, newspapers would still be in demand, is what the question is saying, and internet will not have any effect, which means the impact of internet would be negligible, or it would not create any impact in the overall number of people reading the news. Now this step is very important. When we paraphrase the question, when we put the question in our own words, we are able to understand the tone of it, the nature of the question, and is it like a very exclusive question where it talks about one particular trend to be a predominant one and the other trend to be totally eliminated, or it is talking about the coexistence of two things. Like for example, if you read this carefully, it does not say that newspapers would be totally wiped off. It's saying that an internet will not have any effect. Will not have any effect is like quite an exclusive kind of term. So in other words, it you can always make the argument that, well, it is not that it would not make any effect. There would definitely be some impact of internet, but there would be some people reading newspapers also, since newspapers have been there in vogue for so many years. We cannot say that newspapers would be totally eliminated. So this is one way of speaking about it. Or you can say that newspapers would not be read at all, as internet would make such an impact that nobody would be reading internet anymore, newspapers anymore. I mean the paper version of it anymore. So this is something very important. You should read the question and you should analyze various aspects of it and various directions in which you can take the question. Now again, the question is, do you agree or disagree with this statement? So this is like you have to take one direction, and we've already discussed about which directions you can take, and then you, of course, you are supposed to give some reasons and examples. Now when they themselves are saying give reasons for your answer, include any relevant examples, it does make sense to put in some examples there. Otherwise we will end up writing incomplete answer. Okay, so now let us read an answer to this question. It says, undeniably, internet has revolutionized the world of news and information dissemination. Okay, so this is like a precise small introduction. But then internet is in uppercase. You do not need not write it in uppercase. You can put it in small case as well here. Internet is of course a noun, but then it's used after undeniably. It looks like a little, so you can put it in small case. In future, reading news online would be more in vogue than a newspaper. Reading news online would be more in vogue than not a newspaper, than reading news from a newspaper. See, this is important. We do apple to apple comparison. Sometimes to make the sentence short, we do illogical comparison. Look at this. In future, reading news online would be more in vogue than reading news on newspaper, not on newspaper. So we are comparing reading with reading. So reading online versus reading on newspaper. So you have to write, in future reading news online would be more in vogue than reading news in a newspaper. A deep dive into this subject will let us know. Will let us know. Now, let us know looks like a little awkward here. A deep dive into the subject will help us understand, would be a better phrase. It goes in flow about the merits of e news. Now, E is usually in small case. Whenever we see this E thing, it is usually in small case. So you should not write E in capitals. To begin with, the biggest advantage of online news is its easy accessibility. Okay, news can be read on a mobile or a tablet. When you're saying on a mobile, you have to say or a tablet. It looks more parallel, which is quite facile to carry. These days, even a child knows how to access internet over a mobile phone. Okay, fine. So you are talking about convenience. So that is one paragraph, and I see that you have made a point there. And I can take this as an example that children also use internet so easily. The second advantage of online newspaper is its content. Not only is the news available in audiovisual format, but it can be read in different languages. So when you say not only, it has to be but also. But can also be read in different languages, but can read in either you should say but can also be read in different languages, or but it can be read in different languages also. There has to be an also there. So whenever there is a not only, you have to use but also. Additionally, people can listen to or watch latest news from around the world. Okay, so you're talking about the content now. The second advantage is content. The third advantage of using internet for reading news is that as news is updated in, so after that you have to put a comma, because it otherwise becomes a run-on sentence, and on these points you're going to lose marks. As news is updated in real time, people have quick access to uh, most recent happenings around the globe. To quote an example, comma, recent news about pandemic coronavirus got viral all over the internet in no time, and the government of various nations across the world started to prepare themselves to handle this catastrophe. Okay. Moreover, another benefit of online news is that people can read news published by different agencies and compare their views. Also, as people can post their comment or read other comments on any news item, comma, there has to be a structure of comma, you have to put a comma after item, and then say it makes. So item, comma, it makes internet a very intuitive or interactive mode. How can it be intuitive? You can say interactive mode of reading a newspaper, not intuitive. To conclude, given that in the modern era, given that in the modern era, it is extremely important to keep upbeat with the new trends. Given that in the modern era it is extremely okay, e-news, now again E has to be in small case, will become a vital source of news. Well, the question, as we discussed earlier, was whether it would create an impact in uh, the paper version or not. That has to be very clearly answered. So, the conclusion looks like a little incomplete. So, given that in modern era, extremely important to keep update with news trends. E-news, given that e-news is more convenient and uh, easy to access, more convenient and economical, you can say. Uh, in the coming years, e versions of newspapers would uh, be very popular, or would be more popular than the paper versions, or yeah, newspapers, you can say that. I mean, the answer has to be more in line with the question. So it is very important that you read the question 3 4 times before answering, so that no stone is left unturned as far as your answer is concerned. You understand the question thoroughly, its tone very thoroughly, and then you go about writing your essay. Thank you so much.